almost. All right.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Welcome to Dads, Deals, and Dumbbells, the podcast, where dad life meets business, hustle, and barbells.
We're two dads, one chiropractor, one lawyer, both bosses and entrepreneurs, balancing family, fitness, and building businesses without losing our minds or our gains.
Whether you're chasing toddlers, closing deals, or chasing your next PR, we've got some real talk, dad hacks, and some unfiltered opinions we're going to share.
So let's get to it.
About a little intro for us. 2 minutes each at most. Mitch, who are you? Tell me about some highlights, yourself, kids, business, entrepreneurial background, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing since 2016. Married to my wife, who's also a chiropractor. We met in chiropractic school. I went to Eastern Illinois, played football there. I played rugby at Palmer in chiropractic school. I got 3 kids. At the moment, they're 5, 4, and 2. They're definitely crazy. My wife and I have owned our office since 2019, so we've kind of dealt with it of all shapes, sizes. We've used to have a couple employees. Now we have 5 total docs plus front desk staff. So all the fun things, and then finally figured out our fitness goals, fitness ways to just kind of get our activity done each week. That's been a big deal for us too.
That was perfect. That was like a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can follow your lead as well. I am a lawyer. I've been my own boss now since 2007. I initially went to law school at DePaul University College of Law, where I met my wife. We actually met in a courtroom. It's its own story. I've got 2 kids, age 16 girl and an age 11 boy. They are great little people, and the horror stories I hear about teenagers and children, I don't thankfully have nearly as many of them, knock on wood. My son is developing an interesting little personality, and he's becoming quite funny and sarcastic in a good way. So that's nice. Background-wise, we're going to talk a little bit later on about how we became our own bosses. So we'll get into some of that. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and always liked finding other people who we had connections with, and that's part of the way that you and I met, of course, and had some things in common there. Fitness history, for a long, long time, I was terribly, terribly unhealthy and kind of got my stuff together right as the pandemic started. And now find myself working out almost 7 days a week, 6, 7 days a week.
Nice.
And enjoy it. So I finally found something that worked.
That's a big deal for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so what do we want to accomplish with this podcast? I think this is our official first episode. We kind of messed around a little bit. As far as our perspective on where we want to go, we want to highlight challenges of being a dad, boss, keeping it all together, discuss with other dads and entrepreneurs how they're balancing all those aspects, being a dad, owning a business, and finding time just to keep themselves healthy, because we've definitely been through those types of issues too, where drinking a little too much, eating fast food too much, and just I found myself maybe 2 years ago at 280 pounds, and not happy at all. So not feeling good. So we want to try and prevent those types of things. What are you?
Well, I'll be honest. First and foremost, I want to have a good time.
Yes.
We have some fairly high stress jobs and commitments at home, in the office, in the community. And this was an idea that we kind of had talked about. I heard a couple other people mention it, not having one locally, and I thought it sounded like something that might be entertaining. Might give us an opportunity to highlight some other businesses. But I tell you, one of the things I really, really enjoy personally is having the opportunity to talk to other entrepreneurs, other dads, and share information, because I always feel like there's something I can learn from every business owner, whether it's a big or small business, the way people do things. So I get a lot out of those conversations, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to share some stuff, but I'm hoping, frankly, I'll be able to learn a lot as well. And then you switch over to the other things, the dad tips, and the fitness end of things. We're all fit at a different level, and that's fantastic. Nobody here is a professional athlete. And although I have some equipment that would make you think that maybe I am, you get a little money, and all of a sudden some of the things you buy get more expensive.
Oh yeah.
But no, just hoping to have a good time, and we'll see where it goes. We'll maybe have our wives watching, maybe my daughter. That's probably about it. But who knows where it'll go from here?
That still counts as views.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen with other talking with other professionals, no matter what profession, there's always similar themes, similar difficulties, and similar solutions that we can kind of work together and figure it out. So
100%.
that works.
So yeah, we're going to try to hit the different topics of being a dad, being an entrepreneur, different deals. That's literally dad's deals and dumbbells, the fitness side of things too. So we'll try to hit some of those things each episode, which takes us to kind of our first little reoccurring bit that we're going to try to do, so to speak. And that is a dad tip that I wanted to share today. One of the things that I absolutely hate that I run into frequently, especially with teenagers, but my grade school son, actually even more so with him, I think about it. He's 11, and he's gone all day at school, comes home, and I say, "Hey, Jack," I said, "how was school?" "Oh, it's fine." "What'd you do?" "Nothing."
It was good.
"It was good."
Yeah.
"Nothing." And he doesn't want to answer the question, doesn't want to tell me anything about the day. And what I found, and I'll be honest, I did not invent this. I read it at one point. One of the most useful tools that I have ever had in terms of being able to have dialogue with him and try to pull something out of him is asking him, instead of "how'd your day go?" I ask him, "Tell me the best part about your day and tell me the worst part about your day at school." And he'll take a minute and he'll think about it and he'll tell me, a lot of times the best part of the day is something at recess or playing some game, something like that. Worst part might be, had a substitute or some kid was being, unruly at school or something like that. But asking that kind of question forces him to actually give me an answer, opposed to just simply say it's all great or it's all fine or, just to brush off. So we normally can have some kind of a follow-up conversation from that as well. The other one that's real simple also with school is asking who'd you have lunch with or who'd you play with outside, those kinds of things, because it's much harder for them to just simply dismiss it and say, "Oh, it's all good," and then go run back to technology or what have you.
That's a good one. I've even tried to use it with my 5 and 4-year-old. Like, what would you like about school today? What was your favorite part? What made you uncomfortable? Because it almost might not know. They might not know. They're young, so they might not know like what's the worst part and best part. So kind of elaborate some on what they're feeling. So
absolutely.
Sometimes they'd avoid the question, but they don't know what it means.
Well,
they're getting there.
Nothing works every time.
No, not at all.
But those kinds of questions let you get a little more information, and sometimes they lead to something else. You find out something that's stressing them out, or something exciting for them, test that's coming up, or what have you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So our main discussion topic of the day is what made us take the jump into being our own boss, and how did we get started? So what was your journey? I know you were with a partner for a bit.
Yeah. So it's funny. When I tell this story, I always start off by saying that I always liked the idea of being my own boss, but the switch that I made, which was uncommon for a lot of people make it because they have to make it. They have to make the jump. I didn't. I was in a position where I frankly was overpaid and I was underworked. There were days in the afternoon where I'd have court in Will County. I would go there. I'd be done at like 2:00. I'd be at home. I literally would take a nap on the couch with the dog because my boss didn't expect me to go back downtown. And as long as I was on top of my work, it was fine. So it wasn't a problem. I wasn't, cutting the clock or anything like that. It was a very relaxed job. And, my people that I worked for respected me and I was paid well. So it's all the kinds of things that would make you want to keep a job. But I always felt like something was missing. And I always wanted to be able to control my practice, the type of cases I worked on. I lived in the suburbs. I wanted to not have the commute. I wanted to have a short commute. So that's what made me start to really look at leaving and going off on my own. My dad was a sole practitioner for a long time, and the upside to being a solo as a lawyer is that you control everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad part about that is the ugly. You go on vacation, there's nobody to cover you. You have a conflict, there's no one to talk to. You're working in a vacuum, and it's really hard. So I didn't really want that. A friend of mine in law school and I, we talked. We were on the moot court trial team together, and he had a different practice that I thought at the time I wanted to have. I since learned that I really didn't. But we started talking, and he was working for another firm. I was working for my firm, and over the course of about 16 months, we planned out how we were going to open the office, and it kind of went from there. The jump was not easy. Literally, when we opened the office, I had about 3 cases. He had about the same. We didn't have enough income coming in to pay the rent, let alone to put any money in our pockets. So I went from having a great salary to having no salary
Nearly negative.
and having to pay money out,
Yeah.
right? And having to drum up business. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't scared. I was, because, you know, you had to start from scratch. But what I found was that a lot of people who I got to know along the way were willing to help, whether that was refer cases to me, give me advice or what have you. And honestly, it was a grind. I mean, when we first started off, we opened our office, we had used office furniture. A lot of it was my dad's old office furniture. It was 40 years old. Some of it was. We bought 2 desks and 2 computers. We put in $7,500 each. That's literally how much we put in. And then, you know, it went from there. And every single day when we initially opened, we were doing something. We were either doing marketing, we were going to events, we were trying to figure out, you know, where we could get our next client from. It was literally a grind every single day. My wife was very supportive. I drove her a little nuts at times. I know I did. But it was everything was on a shoestring budget. I mean, you know, we painted our own office. You know, we didn't hire painters for that. Didn't have the money to do that. We had an office that was kind of pre-built out. We made it work. Mm-hmm. And, you know, where we are now is dramatically different. We're in our own building. We own it. We had it designed for us. But we didn't get from 2007 to now overnight. I mean, it was all built up. But I always wanted more. I wanted to be able to control what was going on. I wanted to, you know, have more freedom. Which is interesting when I say that because when people ask me if I golf, I tell them I used to golf a lot more before I was my own boss.
Yeah.
And now the only time I golf for the most part is with golf outings.
The chamber golf outing.
I'm nowhere near as good of a golfer as I used to be because I'm my own boss.
But do you want to golf?
You know, not particularly.
Yeah, that's me too. Like, when did you golf? Like, I could care less.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed 9 holes. I don't enjoy 18 holes.
I'm good for like 7. After 7,
Seven's
I'm done.
fine.
7's the sweet spot for me. I'm like, can I just drink a beer and drive the car?
When I was 12, I was in a little league that was 7 holes, and that's all I knew for the longest time. And that was okay.
Nice. I like the 3 holes too, and then I used to be a caddy, so that was fun just to kind of learn about some golf. But yeah, 18 holes carrying a bag, well, that was rough.
Yeah. So that's how I got my start. Now, along the way, there were lots of other kinds of changes. I mean, back in 2017, I decided I had to part ways with my old partner, and that was a whole other subject for another day.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make the jump because I wanted something different. And I knew, actually, I knew if I waited too long, I was going to get too comfortable, and it was going to be too hard to do. Mm-hmm. I did it before I had kids. Now, granted, my wife got pregnant within I think it was 6 months of when we did this. And she changed, it was 9 months. And then she changed jobs, actually, and took a 30% pay cut after I'd done this as well. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
That was interesting. But it all worked out.
But that's what I would say. You can say the being uncomfortable makes it a little bit better for what you're doing.
It
Almost
does.
Like a pressure cooker.
It does. It's kind of funny. I was actually sitting in the parking lot earlier today before I came in, and I was thinking about when I opened the office by comparison to as we're getting this podcast off the ground. And all I did back then was just grind away on that business. Mm-hmm. And granted, we both have families and businesses that we're running and other entrepreneurial things that are going on as well. But when you focus 110% of your effort on one thing, that's where it's all going to go, and it's going to accelerate faster. Mm-hmm. And I had no choice once I pulled that trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Take that safety net away, and there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, my wife and I had been, when you graduated as chiro, kind of similar to law school, you can either work for someone, open up your own, or you can, those are really the 2 options.
Yeah.
The third one is you can purchase an existing practice, but out of school you have no experience, like banks aren't going to lend to you, all those things. So, and then I come from a family that was a normal W-2 type of worker. No one really owned their own business. So like we have some management, I would say, experience in the family. So those types of situations I rely on the family, but I never really knew anyone that worked on their own and was their own boss. So it was a new concept for me to figure out. But then when I was working as an associate for 3 years, kind of learned what not to do as far as owning a business or running a business. And then we knew it wasn't the long-term fit for us. We wanted more control. We wanted our own freedoms and things like that. We didn't have to check in with the boss to figure out what we could do, and if we could do it or when and how. And we wanted to have like the nice lifestyle and things like that. So we decided we were looking at different places to purchase a practice from and to be our own boss. We looked in Glenview. We looked in the Virgin Islands at a place.
You looked at the Virgin
We
Islands
looked
for
at
a
a place
place?
in the Virgin Islands for a chiropractic office to take over. It was an attractive deal. It was
The weather's
literally-
better there.
The weather's better there, but we were there when we visited. It was the year after or whatever the hurricane came and just
No.
destroyed the island.
Yeah.
One more of those,
Yeah, that'd do it.
destroyed. Plus, it was like a 2-hour flight from Miami. It was a long trip. We didn't have kids at the time, but we were in the same stage as the people that were leaving. There were 2 brothers. They wanted to go back to Michigan and start a family too with their spouses. We're in the same boat too. My family's not in the place where they could pick up and leave and move to the Virgin Islands.
Right.
They're still working full time. So it just, and plus they were fudging some numbers, so it didn't work out. And then we got pregnant with our first daughter a year after being married, and then our boss was like, "Yeah, we're just not going to renew your contract." So we're like, "Oh shoot, we got to move something quick."
No, wait a minute. Remind me. At that point, the two of you were working in the same place,
At that point we were working at the same place.
and
My wife had
your
worked at a
boss said,
different
"We're not going to
location.
renew either of you."
I don't know if he was kidding or not. My wife says we're not going to. My wife thinks that it was malicious. We're still friends with them, so I think he was more kidding. Who knows? But he was one of those guys that would always say something and like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." I'm like,
That's a hell of a motivator.
I don't know which one it is. Yeah. So we took over the practice in April, and then by August, our first daughter was born. And then we've been running it ever since. We've had the ups and downs. It's been nice being our own boss and calling our own shots, but then the buck always stops with you. So that's been a learning curve for us, and just figuring out the roles between the two of us. And then there was one more thing that I forgot to say, but yeah, that was our journey.
Yeah. So I have to ask, because I think this is very different for most lawyers than it is for chiropractors. When you were looking like the Virgin Islands and so forth, was there some business sale broker or some place that you were looking for?
It was
these
a business
opportunities?
coach that we had. So yeah, there are places like Progressive Practice Sales is one where you can go. They have a whole just like Zillow for real estate.
Really?
Or houses. They have listings for chiropractic like brokers.
Wow.
I've even gone on LoopNet and seen a couple like chiropractic offices for sale. Schools will also have like classified.
Not just the building, but the actual business.
Practice, the goodwill, the business is for sale.
Wow.
And you're not really like you're basically buying the equipment. That's the only hard asset you have, and then it's just assuming goodwill. It's the same as like it's like a service-based business.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that those patients are going to stick with you. People that refer to the office are going to stick with you. But the purchasing the practice, we had good cash flow, good income, so it made sense for the bank to fund it.
So, and that's what I was going to ask you, because you mentioned earlier that a bank wouldn't fund you out of chiropractic school
because you had no experience, you had no idea what you're running a business.
So do they want you to work for a few years before you do that?
Yeah. So when we talk to them, like they evaluate the risk, right? So how risky are you as an investment on the bank to do that? So if you don't have any experience, it's a very risky. That's high in that risk. But if you've been seeing patients and can retain patients and communicate patients the value of what you do and how you can help them, they know that you can build off of that. So that was really helpful. And yeah, along the lines of, that's what I was going to say. When we took our first vacation after a year and a half of being in business, we had to cancel the entire week of, it was during COVID, so that was easy, but we still had to cancel that entire week of patients. We still had to pay our staff because it's not their choice. It's kind of crappy if we didn't pay them. It wasn't their choice to take vacation.
Right.
So we still paid them their average hourly rates and stuff like that for the time that they would be working. Then we had to pay for the travel to go there. We had to pay for where we stayed. So it's like you're losing and then also paying, like a double loss there. So that hit home. And I know a lot of patients, like a lot of old chiropractors and solopreneurs, soil entrepreneurs, would just say, I'm just never going to take a vacation because it's going to hurt the books for the month.
Well, so, and this is a problem that I don't have to deal with the same way. In your practice right now, how many chiropractors are there total?
There's 5 total, including
There's
us.
5, including the 2 of you.
Mm-hmm. So 3 others.
So when the 2 of you are gone on vacation for a week,
it's 40% of the practice.
that's a huge impact on
I would
the
say
business.
you could average it out 40%. My wife has a smaller schedule, so it's not actually 40%, but when you kind of figure out who brings in the most, does the most, I do the most as far as like seeing patients. So there is a bit of a hit there. When we took our 2-week vacation last October, there was a slight dip in the month, but because we were able to kind of offload people, it was a lot less of a hit compared to what we did in August of 2020, 2021. That wasn't good.
Now, when you initially bought the business and started working it, was it just the two of you?
It was the two of us, and they had an office manager / front desk. And then within 6 weeks, she also left. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
School of hard
And then
knocks on
since
that
then,
one.
you started adding staff on, more
Mm-hmm.
chiropractors, you had more business.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you've got a little bit of a more of a safety net, I guess.
It's definitely a safety net. There's definitely a buffer. It's nice to know, like, okay, like we have such the flywheel of marketing and marketing and just recognition in the community. Like we have, that's all.
Oh yeah,
churning,
your
so
referral
that's
system
great.
is tight.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
It can always be better too, but
Oh, it can
Yeah.
always improve.
Yeah.
Can always improve. And this episode is brought to you by Bolingbrook Family Chiropractic. Well, that's what it's here for.
of course.
It's funny. As you're talking about hiring people, one of the things I had a conversation with another attorney maybe about a month ago or so. They were talking about hiring somebody. They're a sole practitioner, and they work like a dog. They're working 60, 70 hours a week. And they're thinking about hiring somebody. And I told them the first hire, for me, my experience was the first hire was the hardest hire because you're going from, at the time, it was my former partner and I, we were going from the two of us to having somebody else whose salary we had to pay, have work for them, and have confidence not only that we could pay their salary, but we could keep them busy and justify the whole expense.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, that's when I hired my sixth attorney, and we're looking actually to hire a seventh right now. It's a much easier decision.
Yeah.
There's a lot less pressure. I mean, the sheer numbers work better.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things about business that's just really hard to go through. When you initially start up and you're starting to build that business, those initial hires are really tough. And if you do them too soon and you don't have the business or the capital for it, you have a bigger problem on your hands.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's tough.
I think I've heard of it's just the hardest part is getting it started. So yeah, that first one's always rough. And then
Oh, yeah.
the second one, second, third, even if you talk about like the number of businesses, like the second, third business, they kind of just start moving pretty smoothly.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Those
of course,
are the pitfalls, the good things to look for.
yeah. And of course, when you're talking about, it's one thing when you're working as an individual and you're cashing the checks and what have you. And then all of a sudden you have to do payroll,
Mm-hmm.
which is a whole other set of business challenges that they don't teach in law school. Do they teach any kind of business stuff in chiropractic?
From failed chiropractors, yeah. And then same thing, like you don't want to do that. There's some business coaches that kind of poach people or kind of vulture people or whatever you want to say, like, cannibalize. But and then they're doing the old school stuff, not really like from 50 years ago. And like no one wants to do that anymore. Yeah. It doesn't resonate with you as a person. So like if you try to do that to a prospective patient, they're like, this guy's nuts. So it was very outdated on some things. So we definitely did not do those things. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I'm sure we'll get into in future episodes is talk maybe a little bit about how we've evolved as businesses. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I can tell you that the way that we literally do business on a daily basis is dramatically different than it was 10 years ago. It's different than it was 5 years ago, really. The pandemic did a nice job of forcing us to embrace technology a little bit better than we should have.
Yep.
Lawyers are really bad about advancing with technology, the vast majority. So that was a good thing that came out of COVID, was it pushed us. And one of the lessons I've learned again and again is to always be prepared to evolve, whether it's individually or as a business or what have you. Doing it the old way, sometimes it continues to work. Sometimes it needs to be replaced.
We were at least forced to not have paper records. Like we have to have electronic health records now based on like board standards and stuff like that. So we were forced to evolve with some of those things. Luckily, I was young enough to never have to do like a paper note. I know that some office, that was one of the things with like the coaching. They're like, oh, you have a paper note and like a paper chart and like they call them travel cards. So like
travel card.
So you just like this, like paper would come in. Here's what's wrong. Here's what you adjusted that day or what you treated that day, and just that card would go everywhere with the patient.
It would go with the patient.
So sometimes the patients would just carry them, like wherever they were on the office, or they'd be in a little.
The doctor's office wouldn't keep it. It would go with
the doctor would keep it, but then it was just paper files everywhere. Like when we took over the office, there was file cabinets of X-rays. Now everything's digital. Like, so we ended up just like selling them off for silver because X-rays have like there's the X-ray film and there's silver, like precious metal in the X-rays.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you develop them and stuff like that. But you can sell the silver off, and they were dense. Like one box I couldn't pick up. So I had to get a dolly and everything like that.
That's interesting, the way business has developed there.
Yeah. So at least we were forced to do some of those things. But now there's the world of AI and all that stuff, and they're just taking a course on that. I'm probably going to take another 10-week course just to figure out how to build out just office systems that don't require us to have to be there to ask the questions.
I'm very interested in knowing what you do with that. I love to see real world applications to that stuff because I hear certain things. I personally always have a tough time understanding it until I do it, until I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly use AI every single day now. It's just become kind of a tool like doing a Google search. It's just more advanced.
Yep.
We actually use it, not just like the ChatGPT, but we also have it for legal research purposes as well. It's not foolproof, but it is a tool like anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested to see that.
Yeah, I'm interested to learn more on how to do it. I just kind of like a service level type of three-part course. So I'm definitely going to do the 10-week one and just get more in depth in it. So
we went a little off topic there, but
it's never going to happen again, right?
No, it won't ever happen again, I'm sure. So let's move on here to Quill's Corner, or as I was jokingly calling it earlier before we went on here, just the tip with the doctor.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
So yeah, I like to spend my time listening to podcasts and learning new things from different health professionals, whether it's longevity, exercise, other things like that. So one of the recent podcasts that I was listening to was saying newer research is showing that all you have to do, everyone like thinks you got to be working out for 5 hours a day, 10 hours a week, be a triathlete type of stuff, or be a massive bodybuilder. But if you're just looking to improve just baseline health, reduce cardiovascular risk, all you really need is just 30 minutes 4 times a week.
30 minutes 4 times a week.
30 minutes 4 times a week. That's what newer research is showing. It can dramatically decrease your cardiovascular risks, better blood sugars, better cholesterol, better blood pressure, better heart rates. But then that 30 minutes, though, can't just be like doing a set of curls and then just being done for 10 minutes.
You're going to be walking slow on a treadmill?
No, you want to try and get into zone 1, type of stuff like that, to where you have to be, it's going to be hard. You can have a conversation, but it's a little difficult. That's kind of the good measure on zone 1. But then those 30 minutes also should be pretty high intense, so where you're doing in compound movements. So you do like push-ups, then do some pull-ups. If you can't do a full push-up or pull-up, you can modify those any way you see fit. A reverse row is pretty good. But just instead of working on just biceps, you're working at chest, shoulders, biceps, triceps, all those types of things. Why don't we working multiple muscle groups at once with shorter periods of rest in between? So you're getting a lot of work in 30 minutes. And then you can take a rest.
And so for people who may not know what zone 1 is, what is that?
It's a level of your heart rate. So I would say there's zones 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is you cannot talk. You're going 100% all maxed out. You can't do anything. And you can only sustain that for maybe a couple minutes at a time, maybe a minute. Zone 1 is something where you can do it for a long period of time. Maybe if you're in decent shape for hours, like a triathlete, marathon person. But zone 1 is you can basically be having a conversation with the person next to you and still getting activity in, whether that's a fast-paced walk or a light jog. That's kind of zone 1.
Yeah.
And varying degrees in between 1, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah. Well, one of the lessons I learned early on when I started to kind of get my stuff together, for lack of a better way to say it, was that everybody's at a different fitness level. Mm-hmm. And throughout our lives, that changes, of course, as well. Yep. You and I are both very physically active. So the idea, if I was going to work out 4 times a week for 30 minutes, I would wonder why so little? Mm-hmm. But not everybody can do that. I mean, not everybody's up at that level. I mean, there are some people who haven't exercised in months or maybe even years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this isn't part of just the tip, but the question for you, since you are the good doctor, for somebody who is a completely couch potato, any pointers for them for getting off the couch and getting more physically active? Because they're not going to probably jump to 30 minutes 4 times a week of high intensity workout.
No, for that, just get off the couch, walk around. I tell patients that are a little bit more elderly, like all you have to do is wear a backpack around the house. That's a little excess weight on gravity because you're trying to fight gravity as you get older for longevity. And so that keeps you stronger, helps the bones, helps the muscles. There's also a concept called exercise snacking. So if you're even for desk workers, like if you have 10 hours at a desk, like everyone knows that's terrible for you. Sitting's the new smoking. So you can have a sit to stand desk where you have that option. But then exercise snacking is like every hour you do a minute of squats or a minute of lunges, a minute of push-ups, stuff like that.
About a minute, 12-ounce curls?
Not 12-ounce curls, not 8-ounce cups of coffee, those types of things. You could take a soda can and do some curls that way or a coffee cup. Or I've seen like a couple of kilo-pound mugs.
Oh, sure.
A beer stein just for fun.
I've seen those, yeah.
Get a big old thing of those. But then, if you're doing just exercise snacking, so little bits throughout the day, just kind of sprinkled through, That's the best way to just break it up, get
So-
some things going, and just get that heart rate moving.
Yeah,
Everyone
so-
knows moving. I would like to say just moving is medicine. So as long as you're moving in some way, shape, or form, that's best.
Yeah. So maybe the key for some of those folks is just simply doing more than they did the day before, perhaps.
Yeah.
And getting to that point where they can get out and they can get the 30 minutes 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they really enjoy it, they find something that works for them. And I will say that I think that's the key. You got to
Yes.
find something that you actually enjoy doing.
I hate running, so I will never run. I will pick up barbells all day.
Well, see, and that's funny. I don't particularly enjoy running, but I like doing triathlons and the training process, and that's one of the 3 disciplines, so you have to do it.
Yeah.
I enjoy running once in a while. I never will forget, in 2001, I did the Chicago Marathon, and I was training. I was in law school, and I had a conversation with my parents, and they said, "Oh, what are you doing this week?" And I said, "Oh, I just have a short training run. It's just 10 miles. And as soon as I said it, I thought, that's the stupidest thing I've ever said. But I had gotten up to like 18 miles or something like that at that point.
It's all perspective.
Yeah, it was all perspective,
We
right?
talked to an ultra marathon runner, like, yeah,
That's nothing.
That's a daily snack. Yeah.
Right, that's nothing. And now, I think of going out for a run, and I probably would have thought 6 years ago, a mile, I don't want to run a mile. And now I think a mile, I'm not going to barely break a sweat in a mile.
Yeah.
So it
All
varies.
perspective.
Yeah.
Going from a minute squat every hour to 30 minutes 4 times a week to I'll do an hour each day for 6 days a week.
Yeah. So no matter what fitness level people are at, maybe we can encourage them to do just a bit more, take care of themselves. Maybe that's maybe we can inspire one person. Who knows?
Inspire your daughter. One of the 3
My
listeners. One of the 3 listeners.
One of our 3 listeners. That's fine. Anything else to add on that?
No, those are the best ones.
All right.
Just get going.
All right. Well, folks, that is a wrap on this episode of Dads, Deals, and Dumbbells. If you enjoyed the content, if you learned something, if you laughed at us, or just frankly didn't hate us, or maybe even for sympathy.
Yeah, do us a favor, subscribe, leave us a review, share it with another dad who's grinding it just like you for any tips you can get.
Yeah, if you've got a question, any kind of a crazy story, you're welcome to let us know. We have a Facebook page that's been put up. We're going to work on Instagram and several other things. If you search for Dads, Deals, and Dumbbells, the podcast, you'll probably find it. We're going to start promoting that real soon.
Yep, and thanks for tuning in. Now